think this is a good note for everybody out there.
He says that I don't pull well on TikTok, so
He doesn't.
It's
It's a fact. It just doesn't pull well. It's called social media for a reason, and it's not selfish media.
I just gotta clear something up. You weren't the 12th man on the field.
There is no easy way to get anything ever.
This is Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Mornings with Matt on the Deering Acting Studio podcast. This week we are talking about feelings.
Let's talk about feelings.
And no, you may not just run away from your feelings. You got to stick with us all week. It's going to be a great series here. So today we're going to start off this series on feelings by talking about where do our feelings come from? It's a great question to ask. Start there. So before we get to that, we're going to hit up our daily devotional. Joey?
Yeah.
I've got John 15:4. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me.
Dang.
Remain in me as I also remain in you. I brought up this verse because we're talking about the vine, we're talking about the branch, we're talking about connecting back into God and what is true and what is real. And the fact of the matter is, feelings are a part of life. Feelings are a part of the human experience. And because God is inside of us, I believe that feelings then, therefore, come from God. And so they should be validated. People say, hey, you're not validating my feelings. I agree. We should validate each other's feelings. We should understand that they're real. The feelings come from somewhere. And all week here, we're going to be talking about when we want to be cautious of our feelings, maybe even like squish them down, when we want to be able to use them for good, how to understand them, and then how to be free eventually, which is such an important part of being an actor as well. Mm-hmm. So to talk about the source, to talk about the vine, is a great place to begin.
Yeah.
So going back into this, we're talking about our connection to the Holy Spirit here. Remain in me as I also remain in you. That's so deep, and we don't want to miss that. Because I always say this. I say God is in you. And I've had people refute me on that. The idea that God is actually inside each of us. But here it says it. It says, remain in me as I also remain in you. So as you remain in God, God is inside of you. He's a part of you. Mm-hmm. That's what's helping you determine right from wrong and good from bad, and help you decipher different feelings that are I believe there to help us. They're there to guide us.
Yeah, it's where your conscience comes from, and the Holy Spirit is talking to you too.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
No branch can bear fruit by itself. Mm-hmm. I have a good example of this. I've got these trees that line one of the fences in my backyard, and it's interesting because two of the trees on the right-hand side, there's maybe about 10 trees. Two of the trees on the right-hand side are huge, big, massive trees that are starting to create what I was hoping to have happen, which is like a wall of trees. The trees in the middle and toward the left are growing. They're getting tall, but they're not as full as the ones on the right. And there's one tree on the left that's just sort of like stubby. And I know why it is. I know why that tree doesn't grow the way it should. So the two on the right, the reason why they are growing and flourishing to the point that they are is because they're close to the grass, the closest trees to the grass. And so they are soaking up, I know, because I've seen it happen, they're soaking up sprinkler water. So they get fed more nourishment than the other trees. They're being nourished. They're being hit by extra water. So therefore, it's like, okay, well, if I wanted all the other trees to look like those trees, I need to water them more. That's sort of a simple answer, right? So if we're flourishing and we think, okay, like how do we become more godly? How do we become more happy? How do we become more at peace? Well, it's like get closer to God, become closer to the goodness, and you're going to be feeling like those two trees, right?
100%.
The reason why the one on the left is so stubby is because there was one day that I was going through personally, and I was sort of cutting back some of the dead branches off of these trees because trees go through a process, especially when you first plant them.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to cut off some of the dead branches and dead leaves to help more grow. Well, I screwed up and I accidentally cut that tree. I cut the main branch, and I didn't know that was a thing. I thought if I cut that, it would grow better. It would grow exponentially more. And the reason was it was kind of like bent, and it was like falling over the fence. And I was like, maybe I'll just cut this off and then straighten it up, and it will grow straight. That's what I thought was going to happen. Well, it died.
Oh, geez.
The middle of that died. Now the other branches around it are growing no problem, but the main one, the one that holds up everything else, has been cut.
Yeah.
It can't grow anymore.
Dang.
And I didn't know I was doing that. And so the idea being like, okay, I cut off that main branch, right? That's the main part of the tree. If I take that branch and I stick it in the ground someplace else, it's not going to grow. If I just leave it by itself, it will not. It will cease to live because it's not connected to the vine.
Yeah.
And this is what God is saying here. He's saying if you connect in to me, you stay connected to me, and you call it whatever you want. You read whatever spirituality stuff you want to read. I'm telling you right now, you tap into the Bible, you tap into Jesus Christ, you tap into the Holy Spirit, and then you are going to be connected to the vine. And I understand that other people label it different things, and I'm very okay with that, by the way, because I like to call myself curious.
Yeah.
I have not yet to be proven in such a way that has changed my mind about this stuff. As a matter of fact, the more I learn about it, the more I tend to get closer to my belief system. But I'm also very open, and I don't mind anybody calling whatever anything else. But there is this idea that there is a truth out there that is bigger than us, or we wouldn't be so obsessed with it. We wouldn't want to know so much about it. It's just like this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do feelings come from? Well, what's interesting, Joseph, is there's a reason sometimes for our madness. And we just finished our entire series on thoughts. We talked all about different thoughts and how they affect us and whatnot. And feelings come from our thoughts. That's why we're in this order here.
Yeah.
So if we have sad thoughts, we're going to end up feeling sad.
Yeah.
If we have inspiring thoughts, we're going to feel inspired. If we have thrilling thoughts or lustful thoughts or excited thoughts, we're going to be starting to feel those things. So we have to be so careful about what we think. Well, where do, when we talked about thoughts come from our experience. So as we're experiencing things, we start to think about certain things. And so we have to be so cautious about understanding our thought life and understanding how that's affecting our feelings.
Yeah.
Because feelings are powerful. Feelings are, they're almost everything. Because it's like, it's like, how you doing? And most people just say good. And I say happy to be alive. And it's like, really, how are you doing? And in every moment of time, how you're doing is probably related to some sort of a feeling that you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
We can say we've done this to start off the show, where now we've gotten ourselves in a place where there's a whole new trust that we've earned, a whole new way that we go about our morning, a whole new way that we know how to talk to each other and communicate, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a time when it was going to be an unknown, the feeling.
Yeah.
And we'd be feeling a certain thing. Of course, the show would be affected by it in some way.
Yeah.
But there'd be this feeling. And we had not progressed to a place where, as a team here, that no matter what our morning was like or our night before was like, that we could get ourselves into the appropriate feeling to begin the show.
Yeah.
So we'd have to start the show anyway. And now we're at a place where we know how to flip the switch. We know how to interact with one another. We know how to make sure that we're going to put ourselves in this place most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so our thoughts are where our feelings come from. So now we got to go and go, okay, so which one of these feelings that I'm having are going to be useful to me? Which ones are not? That's something we're going to talk about this week throughout this series on feelings. And so to talk about where do they come from, we want to really get back to the root, the actual root here. And this goes back to our vine concept with the Bible. What is the root of the feeling? And we go down, 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 deep, 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 and we dig and we dig and we dig and we try to figure out where's the source of this feeling coming from. So we all feel, I'd say, passionate about certain things, or we have deep seated feelings about certain things, right?
Football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as a matter of fact, I want to deal with that today. I want to deal with that feeling today, right here on the air.
Cool.
The feeling attached to football. Because I think it's a great example of something that is not dangerous, could be dangerous, but overall is fine. But the idea of being curious about it, I think, is an exciting thing.
Yeah.
To go like, what is the root here? I've got a quote for us.
Ooh.
All right, this is from a guy named Dave Mathis. It says, embrace all emotions: sadness, happiness, sorrow, hate, prejudice, fear. They are weapons against our greatest enemy: indifference. What's worse than any feeling? No feeling at all.
Yeah.
And I've met some people that have
Dang.
struggled with this, actually. What's up?
Good. That should be a quote in and of itself.
That quote me.
Yeah.
That's a Matt Deering
Yeah,
quote. I'll
that
take
was
it.
awesome. I love that one.
You should be terrified about not caring, about being completely indifferent. I always say, when it comes to certain situations that you prepare for, that we want to get ourselves to a place where we don't care in a good way. Because there's a good not caring and a bad not caring. We want to get ourselves to not caring in a good way. I'm going to discuss this really quick, and then we're going to go on commercial break, and then we're going to jump into your feelings, Joey.
Cardinals.
That's right. It is the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're going to go into. And we're going to go into my feelings as well.
Sure.
All right. We're going to deal with that so that everybody can see real time us doing the work that we're going to ask you to do for today's takeaway. So before we get there, let's just finish off this thought here. So where going backwards, where do feelings come from?
Thoughts.
And how do we dig into those thoughts and think, okay, we're going to go down to the source of the thing.
Experience.
And then it's like, what from that experience caused you to be feeling a certain way about that? And can that be changed?
Yeah. Interesting.
And the answer is yes. So then we go to, okay, so then what I was sitting on was the idea of indifference, and indifference being no feeling at all. So how can I then say that that's not good, but there's a way to not care in a good way? Okay? And here's the difference. I do not want to participate in anything that's going to be a competitive endeavor if the other person doesn't care if they win. it takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
The whole reason to compete is so that one person gets the feeling of winning and the other person gets the feeling of losing.
Yeah.
And then what's interesting is you want to get yourself to a place where the feeling of losing doesn't hurt you and you don't become nasty and negative,
Yeah.
but you actually use that feeling as power, which we'll talk about later in this week, but you use that feeling as power to then improve and become better, to compete better next time. Because why is competition? So like, if you think about that, you're like, why would you even compete then? If you're going to try to win, to try to make someone else feel like a loser so that you can feel like a winner, why do you compete? Why is that good? Well, what could possibly be good about me competing against you, Joey, and making you feel like a loser? Because that's what you are. You lose, you're a loser, right? Your dad says, "Rack 'em, loser."
Rack 'em loser.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Why could that be? Why could that be a good, loving, Christ-like thing for me to do?
Because it's refining my skills.
That's
as
right.
The loser.
That's right. I'm making you better. And if
yeah.
I'm better than you, and I'm willing to play with you, knowing I'm going to beat you, knowing you're going to feel like a loser, and I'm going to feel like a winner. Here's the thing. Do I really feel like a winner if you can't compete? Not really.
No.
What do I feel like instead? I feel like a babysitter.
Yeah.
So your dad, then, let's use your dad for this example, because we were talking about billiards here. Your dad's a good pool player, and he says this funny thing when he wins: "Rack 'em, loser," because it's your turn to rack if you lose.
Yeah.
But what he's done here, actually, he called you a loser, which means he called out the truth. The truth is you lost. He put it into a sarcastic, funny thing,
Yeah.
being like, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You did lose, I did win. This is all my gloating, all wrapped into one phrase: "Rack 'em, loser." I'm done. I don't have to sit here and now I'm focused on the next game.
Yeah.
So you could, if you wanted to, you could hear that a certain way and get totally offended and be like, go off the rails. Or you could hear the tone of it and go, he's playing with me, he's having fun. And for how many years was my dad so much better than me that he could have beat me with his eyes closed?
Yeah.
And did a lot of the times. And how boring is that for him? Because it is boring.
Yeah.
You know, like think right now, Jack he finally is getting to a place where he can be cognitive enough to hold the pool cue, hit the cue ball. He's never going to beat you right now.
Yeah.
In the next
No way.
2-3 years on it, like without you letting him win. So how much fun is that for you to play against him versus playing against me?
Not really fun.
It's not at all. It's
Yeah.
not at all fun.
Yeah.
So therefore, the most loving thing that you could do for someone is to beat them, to have them experience the feeling of being a loser.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That's the thing. And people don't see it that way
Yeah.
because it's hard to see that. But if I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to get better at tennis, and I get to play against somebody like Pete Sampras or whoever the Federer, I think right now is a big player, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just old.
I don't know tennis. I'm the wrong person.
Well, let's just say tennis, and it's the number one player in the world.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're willing to beat up on me every morning for a half hour for an entire year. And I
Yeah.
go out there, and by the end of the year, maybe I can hit one back.
Yeah.
Maybe I can hit one back and get it in. Not even score a point, but maybe I can get one in. And they get so bored after the year that they probably let up a little bit because it's so boring. It's
Yeah.
it's hard not
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And maybe I score a little bit just because they let me, because they're so bored.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know how much, like, there's no way that I couldn't be just exponentially better at tennis by the end of that year.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Even if you never got the point.
Even if I never got the point,
Yeah.
even if my racket just touched it, even if it didn't touch, but I tried my hardest, I would have just probably bruises all over me from the tennis ball hitting me. But guess what? I would be less afraid of the fast ball because I've
Yeah.
been hit so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going to die from this. It hit me, it hurt.
And if you're playing the best tennis player in the world, there's nobody that can hit a faster ball.
That's right.
So then everything's slower.
So your fear goes away.
Yeah.
And now when that person who used to beat you, who's just an amateur, who used to hit it hard and you'd go like this, you're like, all of a sudden you're like, that's not that hard.
Well, it's not very scary.
Right.
Yeah. It's a good point.
So that is the idea of, okay, like I'm leaning into this. Now, how do I not care in a good way? Mm-hmm. And this is what I mean. So there's a difference between indifference. Okay, so if I just don't care, I don't want to play against you. It's not fun because you are not trying to win, which means you're not trying to make me better. You're not being loving to me back.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Like I'm loving you to the fullest degree by trying to beat you. Therefore, I'm trying to make you better. Mm-hmm. And if I win, I get to feel the feeling of winning, and you get to feel the growth of losing.
Yeah.
If you play me, but you're not really trying your best, and then at the end you're like, I wasn't really trying anyway. Like there's like kind of nothing that
That's
feels
like the
worse.
worst thing you could do to somebody.
And I think that's why, because you feel like, oh, well, like you didn't love me enough to try your best.
Mm-hmm. It's so messed up.
That's right.
Because like you said, it takes the whole feeling away.
That's
from
right.
A win.
That's right.
And then you're like, well, that was wasted time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then now the difference between that kind of indifference, not feeling, and the difference of I don't care in a good way means I don't care about what other people think.
Yeah.
I don't care about what the crowd thinks. I don't care about what social media is going to say about me. I only care about me and did I try my best? Am I doing what's right? Am I bringing my own personal truth? Mm-hmm. And if that's all good and the rest of the world kind of doesn't agree with you at the time, and you're willing to be moved, you're willing to be changed because you could be wrong. Mm-hmm. If all those things are true, then I think that's what the meaning is of I don't care in a good way. And I coach people to do this in public speeches, in auditions, etc. Like I want to get you to the place where you are giving everything you have. You're only really competing against you. You don't care what they think about you in a good way. You hope you get the job, but it doesn't define you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's what I want everyone to get from that.
Fact.
All right, we're going to go to commercial break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Joey's feelings specifically.
Feelings.
And a little bit about my feelings as well, and we'll give you guys your takeaway for the day. We'll be right back.
Well, my experience with Phoenix casting has been pretty much legit. Like ever since I started like modeling and acting, I've been coming here.
If you're an actor in Arizona, you need to know about the Daring Acting Studio, and you need to get here. They'll make you feel like you belong.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So I think it's great that you guys are continuing to innovate, not just resting back and saying, oh, this is just the way it is. And in these days, because of virtual casting, some of these big projects that are on either coastline, now a lot of actors have the opportunities to at least submit.
It was so uplifting and encouraging, and it's such a refreshing sense to get as an actor, to be uplifted and encouraged and taught to do that to everybody that you're in a scene with.
We always recommend Daring Acting Studios just because we know how important it is to hone your skills and hone your talent and always be practicing. And it's like a sport, you know, you have to go in and practice. You can't just jump into something and think you're going to be a star. So
What I learned about during this workshop is to be yourself and to not to be afraid to be yourself and be authentic.
And that's one thing I gotta say about you guys, is you guys have been amazing. When our team submits, you know, it's like you guys give us really a great selection at audition. And so I think that's great, and I appreciate the opportunities you give our talent.
Do yourself a favor, come down to Daring to Phoenix Casting. You won't regret it. These guys are great. So accommodating. It's a fun, lively, always a great time. So no stress, come down and knock it out of the park. Thanks guys, I appreciate it.
lives will all be changed and you'll grow if you really learn to listen in this way.
Will you help me kill her?
You have to react to that from his point of view as honestly as possible.
Punch him in the face.
No, you don't know nothing. Come on.
As soon as you've solved the puzzle, the scene's over.
Hey! Woo!
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Welcome back here. We're going to talk about Joey's feelings here and what the source of them are. So it's funny because when I talked about feelings, first thing Joey said was Cardinals.
Cardinals.
How do you feel about the Cardinals, Joey?
Oh, man. I have to put on my glasses for this one. I feel great about the Cardinals. We are going to the Super Bowl this year.
So if you could label a feeling, what would the feeling be?
Man, just excitement, probably.
Okay.
Number one.
Okay.
Yeah, they get me super jazzed.
They get you jazzed, excited. Okay. What else?
I mean, in general, there's a huge spectrum of emotions that they bring me.
Yeah.
Like on game day, there's times where I'm like, how do you not tackle him? And then there's times where I'm like, yeah, that was the coolest touchdown I've ever seen. So it's sort of like a roller coaster.
So
depending on what's going on.
So you like the Cardinals?
I love the Cardinals.
There's an emotion right there.
Yeah.
You love the Cardinals.
Yeah.
All right. So now if we wanted to, and we wanted to go backwards and try to figure out the source of that.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go back pretty far. Why do you suppose you love the Cardinals?
Okay. I mean, I got a pretty good idea. So, my dad was always super into football. And then after the divorce, it was just him and I. So that was one thing that we just kind of found common ground on, was he would teach me what things meant. And it was once I got into fantasy football, he got me into our family league. And I just kind of fell in love from there. I had a weird knowledge already right after he taught me.
Right.
I had a knack for it. So it was something that I really ended up loving, and we would talk about all the time, and just a great connection point there.
So what's interesting is the love of a father-son has been inserted into a football team.
Absolutely.
And a game.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that my desire to watch football and the fact that I like watching it as well comes from a similar place. My dad and I like to talk about sports.
Yeah.
When we talk, it's fun for us to talk about. For us, it's usually the Sun Devils.
Yeah.
So, therefore, that's something where I know he reads certain sports articles and I read certain sports articles, and then we talk about the articles that we've read.
Yeah.
And we kind of give our opinions on it, almost like we're sports commentators talking about the stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, my dad and I do the same thing.
Yes, and it's fun.
And I think that bleeds over into our relationship too. Because I think you feed off a little bit of Cardinals hype from me, and I feed off the Sun Devil hype from you.
That's
right.
right.
We both like the other teams, but you tend to like the Sun Devils more, know more about them, and I'm the opposite. So then we get to talking, and you let me know what I don't know about Herm,
Right.
and I let you know what you don't know about Cliff.
Which is why our sports show is going to be so great.
It's going to be so great.
But what else is interesting is I've been going through a phase where I think I got all the way there. And now I have to make, and since then I've made decisions.
Yeah.
But I let go of sports completely.
That's good.
I released it.
Yeah.
And my dad helped actually, because through the stuff I went through, he ended up becoming less interested. And what's funny is my parents got divorced as well. So when they got divorced, my dad became less interested in sports, less connected.
Oh, dang.
Right? Dropped his season tickets.
Yeah.
So does it make sense then that my love of the particular, sport or team got less? Of course.
Yeah.
So then you think to yourself, okay, so what would have to happen for you to not love the Cardinals anymore? What would have to happen? And I think that there's a series of things.
Yeah.
But the main thing is probably if they broke your trust.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about them is I really like the management. So even though we're a small market team that doesn't go far a lot of the time, like I loved how even on our championship run in 2015, they let go of the one receiver who got a DUI. Most teams let that slide, maybe a suspension or whatever.
But I'm talking
that's
about
just not what they
sure,
do.
and that's great. So they align with your values in that way. But I'm
Yeah.
saying like even deeper. If you found out that they cheated and they've been cheating and that the whole league is fake.
Yeah.
If you found out the whole thing was a show, like a WWF tournament,
Yeah.
and they've been taking you for a ride and none of it was real,
I'd be really upset. Yeah.
you'd be upset and you'd break up with them because there'd be no trust left.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I can't trust you. I'm not gonna watch and participate in something that isn't what you told me it was.
Yeah.
That's interesting, right?
Well, and what's interesting too is what you said about your dad. If my dad stopped being interested in that, I probably would be much less interested as well.
You'd be less. That's
Yeah.
right. Because if he just was like, you know what, I'm over football. I'm done with it. I'm done with the fantasy football. I'm done with football altogether. I'm just not going to talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. Whenever we talk, we're going to talk about something else.
Yeah.
You would at first be a little hurt, be a little weird.
Yeah.
And then you'd kind of like work your way through. And eventually you might, because you want to build a relationship with your dad, figure out how to get interested in the other thing that he's interested in.
Yeah. I'd end up watching the Golf Channel.
Whatever else the
Yeah,
thing was,
yeah.
whether it be sports or something else. That's what's interesting.
Yeah.
And then you start to see things through a different lens. So this is cool. So now we go, okay, we know where that comes from, right? Then what's crazy is, God forbid, when your dad passes away at some point in time, or had he passed away early, and then you had this like sort of weird obsession with the Cardinals, we would know why and where that came from.
Yeah.
You might not, because it'd be too painful or you wouldn't dig into it.
Yeah.
But then as you dug, you'd go, oh, like this what was my connection to my dad.
Yeah.
And this is why when you rip on the Cardinals, I want to rip your face off because it feels like you're ripping on my dad who died.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And it feels to most people like it doesn't make any sense, but to you it doesn't need to because it's the feelings. The feelings are so big.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're
Yeah.
going to go into my feelings.
Love it.
And it's going to be similar, but kind of the reverse of this. Okay. So we talked about that I like the Sun Devils, right? But what do I really dislike? Don't say them out loud. The team down south.
The team down south.
To the point that I don't say their name out loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the source of that come from? Okay. And here I'm going to tell you. I think. So I went to school at Arizona State University, go Sun Devils. And there was a rivalry always. It was a known thing. And the students from down there would come up, do pranks on us. We would go down there, do pranks on them. Both teams really cared. Both fan bases really cared if they beat the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And because they cared so much, it built up this sort of animosity that actually, for me, became a game. Because
Yeah.
I had, out of high school, I had about 4 or 5 really, really close friends that went to U of A. And I just said the name out loud.
Oh.
Just kidding. No, so I had some really good friends who went to the school down south, and we really loved each other. We hung out still post high school, and they would visit me, I would visit them, and we had this, like, when it came to the sporting events, because we loved each other. When it came to the sporting events, we really enjoyed the camaraderie that came from disliking each other's schools.
Yeah.
It was a fun game. They liked rubbing it in my nose, and I liked rubbing it in their nose, and weirdly, like, it made us closer.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, that's why I would think that's the source of the animosity, is because it makes it feel bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the feelings stronger, which connects me more into the team, and it makes it more fun for me to play and to follow along because it's a game. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's not real. I know it's not real.
This, however, was real. That was real.
Well, we don't want to talk about that. It's just
No, we don't have to talk about it.
I won't even say a word. Just look at the scoreboard.
Just reference it. Yeah.
So, but really, like, why was that so fun? Right? It's the same idea of what I'm saying. It's the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that now they cannot wait to beat us.
Yeah.
And they will one day.
Yeah.
It will happen. And when it does, they'll get the chance to rub it in the nose. And it's like, it's a part of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the more you get into it, the more fun it is. And
the more you get out of it.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when you have something that's like really deeply connected into it, then it just becomes like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Kylie texted me the other day. She was so sweet. I have to text her back. I keep forgetting. She texted me. She got into that school and she's going to go there.
Hey!
And she was, I won't cheers for that. Fine.
Just because we love her.
I love Kylie so much. And what's funny is, like, she got in and she was so grateful. She was just wanted to thank us for all that we had done for her over the years. And she just left this really nice message. And I didn't respond right away because I didn't know what to say. But what's funny is when she would rip on the Sun Devils and like and enjoy that other school, that one didn't feel like a game to me because I knew she didn't really have a real connection. It felt very fake. Like she was only doing it to kind of push buttons.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, nah. Like, once you go there, let's have a rivalry, like a real one.
Yeah.
But because you don't really care and you're just doing it to do it, there's a fakeness to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100p.
And so now that she's going
then
there,
it's that idea of, and there's always people like this with sports, and it drives me insane. But it's that idea of the person who walks in the room, doesn't have a preference for either team, so he figures out who the room he's in is rooting for and roots for the other team just to make him mad.
Yeah.
Like our Uncle Mike did that at the last
Totally.
ASU U of A game we watched at your house, and we were like, dude, like, you don't care. Stop.
I did that to you at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so weird. But
what's funny is it was only because you got all nasty to me about the Tom Brady thing, and so then I was like, well, if you're gonna be like that, I'm just gonna root for him.
Yeah. I mean, that was not a fun night for me.
Well, yeah. It was just anyway. But yeah, I get your point.
Yeah.
Like you're doing it, and you're not doing it for the game of it, like a game in improv that's fun that we both get to participate in. That's like rack 'em loser with a fun tone. It's more like going like, you're a loser. People don't like you. Rack the balls. Like there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of them is sporting, and the other one is like, I just want to be a thorn in your side and make you feel bad.
Yeah. 100%.
So this is interesting, everybody. This is our takeaway, all right? I want you to think of something that you're attached to, some sort of a feeling type thing, and see if you can dig backwards and figure out where it comes from. Where's the real source? What's the real meat behind it? Why is it that Joanne Stafford and I can have a good time having rivalries over our two schools and simultaneously love one another and think that the other person is super awesome, but we can play and have like something like really fun? I think, where does hers come from? Where does mine come from? And why does that make it more fun? And why would we want to watch a game together?
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the why of that. And there could be things that are bigger, heavier. Could be things that are lighter, like this, like a sport.
Yeah.
And you just go, I'm curious about getting back to the source of this thing, because it's really important that we start here and we understand, where do our feelings come from? Where do the thoughts come from that are creating these feelings? And therefore, I can, at any point, I can make a choice to change if I want to, if it's not feeding me. So, for instance, if your sports and your connection to football and Cardinals became an addiction and became something that was very unhealthy for you, we would need to do this work. You'd have to be willing to do the work to overcome your addiction and cut it out, because it's not something that's benefiting you anymore. It's something that's literally holding you back and hurting you.
Yeah.
And someone who loved you would want to come in and have like an intervention of sorts.
Yeah.
Right? And we hear this with like alcoholics and with people who gamble too much and all across the board. Addictions are everywhere, and big feelings are real. So it's like, okay, how do we look at the big feelings, source them out, and then we can make a decision from there. Do we want to maintain this feeling? Is it healthy for us? Is it affecting anybody else?
Yeah.
Or maybe we want to release it, or maybe we want to change slightly. And it's okay.
There you go. Feelings, everybody.
All right, we're gonna be talking about feelings all week. Do not run away from your feelings.
Do
guys.
not do
Richard, don't run away from your feelings. All right, we'll be back this week. I got to tune in every day. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, share, help us spread this light-driven content to the planet. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.
Have a chippy day, everyone. Rough.